Hi there, Bill Barney here, and I'd like to welcome you to this two-part series on energy medicine hacks or energy healing hacks. I'd like to welcome you to this two-part series, energy healing hacks in an emergency. Let's go ahead and get started with that. Now, there could be all kinds of situations where you can't get to a doctor. You may not be able to dial 911. Maybe you're way out in the desert in the wilderness on a camping trip or something. You're a long ways away from medical help. You don't have cell phone service. A natural disaster, or even maybe the zombie apocalypse. Is that how you say? Yes, the zombie apocalypse. Some natural disaster, some catastrophic event where we may not be able to get to the doctor or the hospital or just dial 911 and have somebody show up immediately. And so there are some things we can do with energy healing, some processes, some techniques that I'd like to share with you, some things that can help us out in those situations. But we don't want to just use these only in an emergency when we can't get to a doctor. Do not misunderstand me. You want to go to the doctor. If this is an emergency, stop watching this video and dial 911 right now, okay? These are just things to put in your memory bank that you can use when you can't get to the doctor or in conjunction with other things. But obviously, seek professional medical attention first in the case of an emergency. This is a backup and to reinforce and use in conjunction with the other things, the things I'm going to share with you. I'm going to share two things with you today. But before I get into that, as I share these two things with you, I'm going to also show you how to do the process. The other one is some information, but I'll give you all the information so you're pretty well ready to go just after watching this video. There isn't something you have to go learn afterwards. Before we get into all that, I'd like to invite you to go to our website, www.allthingspossible.biz. It's right here at the bottom of the screen. And we'd love to have you join our community. We've got tons of free gifts there when you sign up for the email so that you can get our weekly information that comes out. This is a good video if you enjoy it. There's many more like this and blogs and lots of information that we serve for All Things Possible community. So please go ahead and join that. Like the video, join our YouTube channel as well. Thank you. Let's get right into this. So the first thing I want to share with you is what I call pranic sweeping. Now this seems overly simple, so I don't want you to just not pay attention to it or not try it just because it seems too simple and it seems absurd and it seems silly when you're doing that. And I first started to learn this process way back in the 1970s. My mother that was when nobody was into energy healing, but my mother was a natural healer and she was always trying to learn new techniques, and she come home one day and says, I learned this thing at a seminar where if you ever get a sprained ankle, if you will just sit and brush lightly, assume that my wrist is the ankle, right? If you'll just sit there and brush lightly on that ankle, just brush away from the foot, brush and do that for about 20 minutes, just brush lightly. Well, at the end of that, just do that and it'll take away a lot of the pain. And instead of, having weeks of pain and limping, you may just have a sore ankle for a couple of days. And I didn't know what it was about. I just knew to do that. And through my youth and growing up and different silly things I did sprain my ankle a couple different times. But I remembered that. I sat down and I did this technique, and sure enough, it worked. Because, a sprained ankle can be very painful and take a long time to heal. Later on, as I learned more about energy medicine techniques and stuff, I learned that we can move the energy of the body with our hands. We was actually sweeping that energy. Prana, that's why I call this pranic sweeping. Prana is the Sanskrit word they use in India to mean life force energy. In China, they call it chi. Japan, they call it ki. Okay, but it's that life force energy or prana. And so what you're doing is when you have a trauma or an injury or an illness, pain, infection, inflammation to the body, there's a lot of dirty energy that accumulates there, dirty prana. And what we're doing is we're sweeping out the dirt. Just like, if you're If your dog goes out in the bushes, he comes back with a whole bunch of garbage and leaves and stuff and twigs in his coat. You want to comb that stuff out with a comb for the dog, uh, and clean that out. It's kind of like what we're doing. Now, it is not necessary, even though that's the way I learned it at first, it's not necessarily to actually touch the skin. You can move your hands in an area, within proximity, 2, 3, 4 inches away from the skin and sweep it away. Always sweep away from the body. I've used this to help get rid of headaches when people have, when clients and loved ones have had infections, inflammation. I've had people that have injured themselves in the swelling, and I've done this, and you can literally watch, while I'm doing the process, you can watch the swelling go down. It's like it's much smaller, and the pain level will go down. I had occasion to spend a few days with some good friends of mine here last fall. And this lady she has a terminal stomach disease, and she would just writhe in pain. And she was on some serious painkillers. And she would just writhe in pain when this pain would attack her abdomen. And I was able to, when she was in one of these attacks, I was able to show her husband how to take and sweep down her tummy and sweep away, and just keep doing this in the one direction. And just sweep and sweep and sweep down her tummy. And she said, geez, the pain went, from a 9 down to about a 2 or a 3, and it got quite manageable just by doing this when her pain pills and all this other wasn't working. So it was something that was able to give her quite a bit of relief in conjunction with modern medicine. Any of this stuff, I mean, if you can get benefit by going to the doctor, absolutely do so. This can be added to. But if you're out a long ways away, or you can't get to the doctor, you've got things that are going on, trauma to the body, you can do this to pull away that energy. Another thing I found is even after someone's had a surgical procedure or something like that, a lot of that energy will build up. Now, if you're one that can feel energy, and maybe that's a whole other video on being able to sense and feel energy, we should be able to feel our energy field 2 or 3 inches away from the body, just by kind of sensing. And we'll do a video on that at another time. But very often it's like 16 inches, 24 inches away is where you feel that energy field of that negative energy that's clustered up, and you just sweep all that away and clear that out. The one thing you want to do with this energy, this is nasty stuff. It's dirty energy. And when I first learned this, it's just like sweep it away from the body. In fact, you'll see massage therapists often, when they get done with a massage, they'll run their hands down the legs and then flick, like they're trying to flick something off their fingers onto the floor. That's their personal thing. For me, I've really discovered through other experiences that leaves a negative energy in the area. So I recommend taking a bowl of water. I don't have any water in here because I knew that filming here, I would probably end up dumping it. But you can use a larger bowl, a plastic bowl, whatever, and take some salt and mix that, make it salt water, saltier than you would want to drink. I mean, pretty strong salt solution. Mix that up good, and then put it on the floor or next to the person. So say if I don't have enough hands here. Well, I do too. Okay. So say if I was sweeping away from my wrist here, you don't need to have it this close, but obviously this is for the camera. Imagine that you're just pushing all that energy, you're flicking it into the salt water bowl. There are other energy procedures you can do to get rid of that, but for the purposes of this is just something the intent is not to have you learn this great big hard to do process, just something to do. Grab some salt water and put it in a bowl if you have time, and if conditions dictate that it's okay, that you can do that. And then just imagine that you're sweeping all that energy down into the bowl that's under here. Sweep that energy into there. When you get done, take the bowl, dump it in the toilet, throw it way out in the dirt if you're out camping or whatever. Clean it out really good. Wash it and rinse it a couple of times. There is some dirty energy there. It's much better than just leaving it on the floor. Now, if you're literally in a very life-threatening situation and actually cannot get to a doctor, I wouldn't worry too much about what you do with the energy. Just get it out of the person's body. I just want to share you one funny story about me. And I've used this several times throughout my life, and I use it a lot with clients and loved ones. But here about 2 years ago, we was camping down to the lake, and I was starting a fire, and it was not starting well. So I grabbed some gas, put it in a soda pop can, because of course it's unsafe to use gas in the whole big gas can, right? So I put this gas in this soda pop can, and I go up and go to toss it on the fire I thought the fire was out, and I was just going to light it again after I threw it in there. Well, I tossed it on there, and it caught a spark of the fire I had been trying to burn, and that fire jumped up into the can. So I threw the can down in the fire, but as it hit, it splashed up. And did I mention I was at the lake? Okay, I'm at the lake. I'm wearing flip-flops and a pair of swim trunks. And oh my goodness, it was terrible. I immediately caught on fire. My swim trunks caught on fire. There was gas on my legs. Gas will burn on top of water if it catches on fire. And there's no putting it out. But of course, me being who I am, I tried, so I beat myself quite furiously there for a minute. Not a full minute, but it seemed like a long time when you're on fire. Time speeds up a lot when you're burning. I realized that wasn't working, so while I was still beating myself, I ran and dove in the lake, which is about 30 feet away, and I come out, and of course, all of my good friends that camp with me could not stop laughing. It wasn't about helping Bill to see if he was hurt or how he was doing okay. They was laughing at me for being an idiot, which it was well deserved. And I want to show you a picture of what these trunks look like. Here, I just had it sent to me. So this is a picture of me holding up the swim trunks. As you can see, the nether regions of these swim trunks were totally burned out. I was not in very good shape. I mean, it wasn't life-threatening, but here we were 2 hours away from the marina where there was they did have an emergency medical care there. But it was one of those things that I knew it would blister. There was some of that swimsuit stuck to my skin, that synthetic blend fibers or material just kind of melts in terms of into this hot puddle on your skin. And so I got changed, put on a fresh suit, and immediately I was like, oh, if I don't do anything, I'm going to have like some serious blisters, and it's just going to take time to heal. I mean, these were, I don't know how you do degrees in burns, but I think it was about 1,000 degrees hot is what it felt like. But seriously, I don't know if they're second degree or whatever you call them burns, but I assumed they would be going to blisters. And they were starting to, my legs were just very red from being on fire. It was a great hair treatment product, though. I didn't have hair on several parts of my legs. And so I sat down with my legs, in my, and I didn't get salt water. I mean, I was out on the beach somewhere. I wasn't too worried about this energy. And I swept and took my hands and swept down and away from my body. And I did this for about 20 minutes. That's the first thing I did after I got on a pair of swimsuits that weren't too revealing after I destroyed that. And then I got up and went about my day. What was amazing is even as I was doing it, the pain went down significantly. And then I just had the red spots. And very often after a burn like that, it's like the heat just cooks underneath the skin. I don't know what it does, but it tends to get worse over the next couple of hours. Well, it never got any worse than in the moment when I started sweeping. In fact, even through the sweeping, I see the redness and irritation go down quite a bit. And it was about 3 days that I still had some redness on my skin, but it healed up very quickly. So pretty amazing results. You can use this for that kind of a thing. Now, the other thing I want to show you is not necessarily an energy healing technique, but it's alternative medicine. And if you're familiar with colloidal silver, you already know where I'm going. But I want to share with you what colloidal silver is. If you haven't, I'm just going to give you a brief history. And it's something you can make for yourself. Now, if you go and buy a bottle of colloidal silver, there we go. We got it so you see it in the screen. Colloidal silver in the health food store or a health and wellness store. This can cost anywhere from, for a 32-ounce bottle, probably about 50 bucks and up, depending on the purity and what of the silver that you get. So it can get kind of expensive to use this, even if you're only taking a teaspoon a day or so. The benefits, first, of colloidal silver are as an antibacterial to fight infection and mold. You can use it topically, you can use it internally. There's no real contraindications. There are some cases of people that went way overboard and was drinking a lot of this every day. Over time, their skin would take on kind of a gray cast or a pallor. But as far as I know, there's no, other than looking weird, there's no bad benefits or bad side effects to it. But you have to drink a lot of colloidal silver daily for a long time to even get there. And I know that's a big scare that everybody uses. Oh, you're going to turn blue or you're going to turn gray or whatever by drinking it. Do some study on it before you use it. But that's kind of like it's hyperinflated, that little piece of information there. Anyway, the colloidal silver, it's a natural thing. Your body doesn't build up a resistance to it like some of the antibodies. Now, if you need to be on an antibiotic medication, please go ahead and take it. Don't use this instead. But if you've got an ongoing infection, and I've seen this several times where the people's doctors have had them on one thing after another, and they haven't been able to get rid of it, you get them on this for 3 or 4 days, and all once that infection just goes away. So there's some real great benefits to using colloidal silver. What it is, it's very, very fine particulates of silver, and I'll show you how that's done, is dissolved into distilled water, and it stays suspended because it has electrical charges in these particles that positively charge electrons, something along that line. It keeps them so they don't all settle to the bottom. They kind of repel from each other, and so they stay dispersed. And it's a great way to treat yourselves when you can't go to the doctor. Now, you're not going to drink colloidal silver in an emergency, but if you're in a case where you can't get to the doctors, there's a disaster and there's not immediate help available, goodness sakes, you can use this to disinfect. When you store water, put a small amount of colloidal silver in the water storage that you store, and it'll store indefinitely. It keeps the water from spoiling. You can do that instead of putting like Clorox in your water and then having that nasty chlorine taste to it. You've heard the saying, they was born with a silver spoon in their mouth. Now, when we hear that, we think, oh, this person was born into money. They were born wealthy. And while that's part of it, there's also the thing that wealthy people, I don't know how much they realize of this, but they would always let their babies suck on a silver spoon. In fact, for affluent people, they would often, that would be a gift to a baby, is a silver spoon. And then the baby would suck on that, and they'd get small particles of silver. And the babies were a lot healthier than those of people who couldn't afford to have actual silverware. They would just have metal, utensils or what have you. So when they say born with a silver spoon in their mouth, a lot of times that's healthier too. It's not just about being born rich. So with colloidal silver, you can buy it at the store, as I mentioned. This bottle has been refilled dozens of times. This is not the original solution in here. We purchased, after realizing you could spend that much, years ago, I did a lot of research, and this is what I ended up buying, was this colloidal silver generator. Now, I'm not affiliated with this Silver Gen company. I don't get any commissions or anything like off of them. They still sell the same model now after years and years. There's several models. Just do some research if you're into this and buy what you want. But here's how it works. It puts a small electrical current down, a negative and a positive charge down each of these little silver strips. These are pure silver. And you put that in the bottle of distilled water. And then this thing is sophisticated enough that it senses the resistance back and forth, and it will shut itself off when you get to a higher level of silver. And you can, as you can see, there's an adjustment here where you can adjust it for more or less strength on your colloidal silver. I've never taken it off high. I mean, why would you want to make a low strength dosage? But anyway, you do have that option. This costs a little over $200 for this unit here. But it makes a batch in a couple of hours. I don't have one with me right now, but you can go online. You can buy a colloidal silver generator, something to make your own colloidal silver for 25 bucks or so. Basically, it's two fine wire rods of pure silver, and with whatever else they hook it up to, but you hook it up to three 9-volt batteries in series, so they end up with 27 volts going down from. So with three 9-volt batteries, those little batteries you can put in electronic devices, what have you, and some silver rods, you can make your own or buy a kit for $25 or so. And so even the time you make your first bottle, you're money ahead than going to buy it at the store if you want to generate your own. So it's something I'd recommend keeping a couple of quarts on hand. Again, this isn't going to, if you break your leg, drinking colloidal silver isn't going to heal your broken leg. But if you have an abrasion, whatever, you can put it on the skin, take it internally for benefits. Don't just go into it from what I'm saying here. Do some research. There's tons of information on the internet about colloidal silver, but I totally recommend it. Keep a couple of quarts on hand. Store it in dark bottles and out of the sunlight. You notice if you buy colloidal silver anywhere on the internet, it'll never come in a clear bottle or a plastic container. Glass containers, dark bottles, and store it inside of don't store it in direct sunlight. Store it out of light, and it'll basically last indefinitely when stored that way. That's what I had to share with you today. So the pranic sweeping, the colloidal silver, and really, as far as the pranic sweeping, that's all you need to know. I mean, there's more stuff you can do, but that's enough to help you out of a bind without having to remember this big process and practice and know how to do it. That's what I have to share for you today. Be sure and check back with us on part 2, and I'll share you a couple of more things that you can do in an emergency. So they're energy healing hacks to use in emergencies. I'm Bill Barney. Thanks for joining us. I'd love if you go to our website, www.allthingspossible.biz, and check out all the things we have there available for you. Have a good day, and we will see you later.